guys, and welcome back to Geordie and Sam, and this week it's round 4 footy tips, so without any further ado, let's just get started.
For the first game, we have Port versus Melbourne at Adelaide Oval. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to tip against Port Adelaide here. I just don't see us beating Melbourne with some of the outs that we have and the form we've been in. So I tip Melbourne to win the first one.
Okay, so the first game of the round is Port Adelaide versus Melbourne at Adelaide Oval. I'm going to tip Melbourne because Port Adelaide's having a shocker start to the season, and I think Melbourne are going to win by 75 plus points.
For the second game, which is the Friday night game, we have Geelong taking on Brisbane at GMHBA, so Geelong's home. It's a tough one. Both have played good footy this year, but I'm gonna tip Geelong just because it's Geelong's home game, and that's the only reason.
The next game of the round is Geelong versus Brisbane. This is a really tough game, but the game is played in Geelong's home stadium, so I'm going to tip Geelong only for that reason.
The next game I think is pretty easy, with Sydney taking on North Melbourne in Sydney. If Sydney lose that, then I don't know what, but Sydney should win.
The game of the round is Sydney versus North Melbourne. This is an easy one. I'm going to tip Sydney.
Next game, we have Collingwood versus West Coast. Again, pretty easy one. It's at Marvel, so it's in Melbourne. So I think Collingwood should win.
Okay, so the next game of the round is Collingwood versus West Coast. Now, West Coast hasn't had the greatest start to the season, and Collingwood did lose last week, but I'm still going to tip Collingwood.
Next game, we have Richmond versus Western Bulldogs. This is a tough one because both teams are kind of underperformed. I do think Western Bulldogs will win because they're a bit better, but both have kind of underperformed this year. But Western Bulldogs win.
The game of the round is Richmond versus Western Bulldogs. This one is a hard one because both these two teams are falling in and out of form, but I'm going to tip the Western Bulldogs because I think they're a slightly stronger side.
The next game is Fremantle versus GWS. In Optus Stadium, I think Fremantle will get up. They've played probably a bit better football this year than the Giants and are at home, so I think that just gives them a little bit of...
The next game of the round is Fremantle versus GWS Giants. I'm going to tip Fremantle only because it's played in Perth.
For the next game, we have Essendon versus the Crows. This is at Marvel. Two teams that are predicted to be lower end of the ladder now, you could say, but I still think Essendon being lower will probably get their first win this week, so I think Essendon will beat the Crows.
Okay, so the next game of the round is Essendon versus Adelaide. Essendon lost last week and Adelaide won. I think Adelaide's a slightly stronger side, so I'm going to tip Adelaide.
Next is Hawthorn St Kilda. This one's a tough one because Hawthorn just lost by, I think it was about 1 point to Carlton last week, and St Kilda underperforming at 9th, so in the middle. But I said last week Hawthorn's run will come to an end, but I think it's going to start up again. I think Hawthorn will beat St Kilda at the MCG.
The next game of the round is a little bit harder. It's Hawthorn versus St Kilda. St Kilda did win last week against Richmond, and Hawthorn lost by a point to Carlton. I still think that Hawthorn's a slightly stronger side, so I'm going to tip Hawthorn.
The last game of the round, we have Gold Coast taking on Carlton up at Metricon Stadium. A Gold Coast home game, but I think Carlton will still get the win over GWS. GWS play better though this year than they have in other years, but I just don't think they're going to beat Carlton this week.
Game of the round is Gold Coast versus Carlton. This is an easy one. I'm going to tip Carlton.
Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next week with more footy tips, or if anything else comes up between then and yeah. So, see ya.